Of course, this year we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, giving some women in this country the right to vote. But think about it like this. In 1964, when Kamala Harris was born, black women in this country still couldn't vote. And so the magnitude of this moment certainly is not lost on black women and likely many women in general. The idea of this dream deferred for far too long for the likes of Shirley Chisholm, who was the first black woman to run for president in 1972. And the countless and nameless others who dared to not even dream of it because they didn't think that it could happen. And so I'm especially thinking about the little girls of all colors, but in particular black and brown girls, because there's so much power, George, in seeing someone who looks like you, being able to watch Kamala Harris achieve and excel and crack that second highest glass ceiling. And if they're able to harness all of the possibility of that trajectory for themselves.
Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to the third session of Dear Black Girl. We can't believe we're halfway through our conversation series. What an amazing journey it continues to be. We've so far discussed identity and how it flows out of knowing who's who and why you are. And we talked about mother and daughter dynamics last week. This week, we'll be chatting about moving from pain to purpose. I am confident that the conversations we have today will stir you to move beyond your pain and into your purpose. We hope that you will learn that being differently abled and not disabled, or struggling with illness, setbacks, and obstacles are no match for God's will for your life. During our first segment, we will be chatting with Miss Anna Esther and Allie White. But first, please welcome the founder of Daughters and Vessels and creator of Dear Black Girl, my aunt, Cordelia A. Bennett.
Thank you so much, Niece. Let me tell you how committed these girls are. Caitlin was supposed to be at home in a comfortable spot with her Wi-Fi connected and her lighting and her ambiance set, and life didn't happen that way. And she said, that's not going to stop me from doing what I committed. So Caitlin, I want to applaud you and celebrate you for being committed and dedicated to your moment in the show. I am so thankful for you. And I'm super proud of you because you're my niece. And so there's something special there. I love you. Thank you so much for that introduction. Hi, friends. Welcome to the third session of Dear Black Girl. I cannot believe that we are halfway through this conversation series already. We played a clip before the show started about Kamala Harris and the momentous victory that she has had, and also just the fact that as a Black woman, an East Asian American woman, Jamaican American woman, she has become an example to our girls of who they can be, what they can achieve. And so politics aside, because that doesn't matter right here, right now, what matters is that our girls have someone to look up to who sits in the second highest office of this land. And so if that is not encouraging for us, I don't know what is. Before we come before you every week, we have a private conversation, me and the girls, and we talk about whatever the topic is going to be for the week. This week, we talked about overcoming obstacles and challenges and how we have used it to fuel our pain. While we were having our conversation, my mentee and one of our Dear Black Girl Dream Team members, without being prompted, said she had overcome an obstacle. And so we asked her to share. I'm going to bring Kendall up because she shared with us yesterday that at the age of 3 years old, her parents started her in a speech class. At the age of 4, they realized that she actually could not hear. 5 ear surgeries And 10 years of speech therapy later, Kendall is one of the most articulate, one of the most compassionate human beings you will ever meet. She is an artist, and she is also the founder of Toys for Orphans, an organization that provides toys and Christmas gifts to orphans during the holiday season. So, Kendall, thank you so much first for sharing your story with us yesterday. And thank you for being willing to come on today and share a little bit with our team. So my first question for you is, tell us how you learned to overcome your hearing challenges.
I've learned to overcome my hearing challenges by focusing on things that I like art, dance, and soccer. And also with art, I didn't have to listen or hear people. And since my hearing affected my speech, with art, I didn't have to talk to people either. And then also, I would pray to God, which also helped me with my challenges.
That's powerful. And so you found something where you could find peace and joy and not have to worry about your different ability. And I, for one, know that you're an amazing artist. Do you have any art that you could show us right now?
Yeah.
I knew you would. You drew that?
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. You're so talented. And so if there's a young girl listening, Kenny, thank you, who has a different ability, whether it's emotional or mental or physical or some other challenge, what would you say to her right now?
My advice would be to focus on what you love, and if your obstacle is connected to the thing that you love, you should do the thing you love anyway, because you'll overcome your obstacle one day and you will still have something that you love. And also not to let other people tell you what you can and can't do, and to keep on pushing no matter what.
That's some great advice. And I thank God that you took your own advice and that you've become the honor student and the powerhouse that you are growing into. I know you prefer not to be on the screen, but I do appreciate you stepping out of your comfort zone and really just coming to share with us today. So thank you, Kendall. And I will return you back to the studio where you can work on tech for us.
Okay.
So I'm so excited about today's conversation because how many of us have been through situations, have had issues, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, that have threatened to hold us back. Today, we are talking with some light-bearing guests. These are phenomenal young women who have endured, who have overcome, and who are trailblazing, who are talking about their healing, their miracle, sometimes their ability to keep pushing even when that thing is still on them. But before I bring them out, I want to bring out my co-interviewer, Morgan. I know you guys missed her last week, but she is back again today. Morgan, welcome to the show again.
Thank you, Coco. I'm so excited about today's conversation. I haven't faced too many obstacles in my 9 years of life. Thank God for that. But I have supported my family members through their obstacles, and I'm so happy to learn how to endure if and when any obstacles come my way.
So good. That's wisdom, Morgan. That's wisdom. And yes, thank God for that. I want to talk a little bit about the guest who you will be interviewing. Our first guest is Anna Esther. Anna Esther is a leukemia survivor. She was diagnosed at the age of 15. She is a walking miracle. She is the author of 2 books and she has one on the way. She is a speaker, an advisor, creative development and wholeness strategist, and servant leader. She has established a ministry, an organization called Be Made Whole, and it is a journey for people to go through to become their whole selves. She earned a BA in communication and psychology and a master's in higher education from Seton Hall University. Anna gets to be the mom to Zanai Esther. She lives by one of her favorite proverbs, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. That is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5-6. Thank you so much for being with us, Anna.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this. Like, I'm literally trying to get myself together, but I'm so excited. Like,
with these girls. So exciting. Next, I'm going to bring out Allie White. Allie White is a brilliant example of accepting what God allows and winning despite being differently abled. Alexandria is a jovial, vivacious soul with a strong passion for fashion, and her love for God leads the way. She is a 19-year-old business management student at FIT, one of the top fashion schools in the world. She is a stylist. She is a blogger. She is an adventurer. Allie also mentors the youth at her church through a program called Youth Chat with Allie. These conversations serve as a platform for her to remind all people, but specifically young people, that regardless of the obstacles that you face, you can still thrive. Allie has learned this lesson as she herself has had to overcome her own different ability since a young age, and she will share that with us during this segment. Allie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor, and I'm so happy to be here speaking with you all.
Ah, we love you. Thank you for being here. Well, Morgan, this is your show. Take it away.
Hi, ladies. Let's get started. Miss Anna, let's start with you. Can you tell us a bit about who you are and the obstacles you had to overcome to be here today?
Ooh, so many things that I can share with you all. But first of all, thank you so much for having me, Morgan. You're amazing. Allie, so are you. I'm so grateful to be amongst such amazing young ladies. And I would say, for the most part, I would say I am a light bearer, like Cordelia said. I get to be a mom to 7-year-old, and God allows me to serve in so many different ways in the community as a servant leader. So I get to work as a support coordinator professionally, which means I assist adults that are experiencing developmental challenges, and that shows up in different ways, physically, emotionally, mentally. So I get to work with them in terms of coordinating services and essentially living and walking out the lives that they can still live independent of challenges that they have. And so I've had a heart to serve, a heart to want to help others see who God made them to be. Since I was a young little girl, I experienced my own challenges. So as Cordelia mentioned, I did experience leukemia. I was diagnosed at the age of 15, but prior to that, I was challenged a lot as it relates to my identity, who I, wasn't sure who I was, if God cared about me, if God loved me. I had a lot of questions growing up. And I also was challenged with my weight. So health-wise, I struggled with my identity. I went through a lot of challenges, even as it relates to not wanting to live, because I thought that I just was not worth living. And that was a challenge in terms of my faith, me trying to figure out who God was in my life and why was I even here. And by the time that I came to the age of 15, when I was diagnosed with leukemia, it was very just hard for me to first of all hear that at the age of 15, because my experience was that I had a cousin who also had passed away from leukemia. So immediately the fear was that I would also pass away. So there's a lot more to that, but ultimately what ended up happening is this was my shock moment in my life to get to know God for myself, and to learn to trust God and have faith on God, separate from my parents. So I grew up in church. I knew of God. I had heard of God, but I had never really experienced God for myself. And this was that moment where my world was shaken. And now I had to figure out who this God that my parents talked about was. And what did that look like? What did that sound like? What did that look, feel like walking out? And yeah, I literally was just like, okay, God, this is between you and me. We got to figure this out because I don't know what to do, and at first I was angry because I was like, God, like, what did I do so wrong that I would get diagnosed with leukemia at this age? And it's so unfair. So I was going through that. I was angry at God. God, I'm so angry. Why would you do this to me? And then that anger turned into me surrendering and saying, well, you know what, God, if you decide to take me, you're God. I can't fight you. And if I do, I'm still going to lose. So I might as well just go ahead and do what you asked me to do. And ultimately, after that, God took me through a journey of learning to trust him. And I was healed miraculously. And that's a whole nother story. I don't want to take up all of the time, but long story short is that was my experience where I learned how to trust God and believe God for myself, and that God was still a miracle working God, not just a God that did miracles in the Bible. And my experience also is that the scars remain. So me learning to live through the scars of what I went through was another testimony of me learning how to not be ashamed of what I went through, but using that as an opportunity to speak about the God that I get to serve and love, and who loves me and sees me and cares about me and called me for such a time as this, and getting the opportunity to share that with others.
That was a powerful testimony, Miss Anna, and you are a walking miracle. And
Thank you, Morgan.
The exact same question for Miss Allie. Can you tell us briefly about who you are and the obstacles and challenges you overcame to be here today?
Yes, definitely. Once again, thank you so much for having me on and interviewing me. It's just such a blessing to be around such miracles, working testimonies, as you call it. And it's just an honor. So my name is Alexandria. Most people know me by Ali. And I love fashion. I love adventures. I love going after God and just walking in my purpose. And the obstacles that I had to endure throughout my life was knowing and understanding what it means to be hearing impaired, what it means to having to adjust in a new normal. I think it was at the age of 3 where I was diagnosed with being bilaterally hearing impaired, meaning that I'm hearing, like I can't hear on both ears, so I have to wear hearing aids. So it was kind of a funny but not so funny story. I was sitting in the back seat, my mom was driving. This is how my parents found out that I was hearing impaired. And so she was talking to me, and I said, Mom, I can't hear you. Like, can you put the mirror on your lips so I can read your lips? And she was like, huh? Like, what? And so then after that, she took me to the doctor. And then that's how they found out that I was hearing impaired. And so it was such a transition, because I think for me, it was a transition because it was different. I knew I was different than the people I was going to daycare with, to preschool with. I was like, and then I struggled with that. I was angry. I used to like flip tables at 3 years old and like kick and punch and bite. I was so like, just so angry because I didn't understand why I wasn't like everyone else. And then it took, as I got older, just understanding my identity, like you said, Anna, and God, and just knowing who you are and being confident in that. I think my parents, we had to move to different towns where I was able to get total resource, like just so that I can be the best that I can be in the classroom. Like, I mean, I did speech therapy. I believe up until 7th grade, I did speech therapy. And then I had a teacher assistant in the classroom. And then when I was in kindergarten, I was taken out of a big classroom and placed into a smaller classroom with special ed, other special education students. And by the time I got into 3rd grade, I was moved back into a bigger classroom because I was able to adjust with a large group of people with the teacher assistant. So by the time I got to 7th grade, no more teacher assistant, no more speech therapy. God really just allowed me to transition into this new normal by still being confident in my own different ability, as you would call it. And basically, but even though by the time I was in 7th grade, even though I was starting to become independent in this different ability, I was still struggling with my insecurities and understanding why me, why now? Why, it's always why when we're going through things. And then I just had to, like I said, like Anna said, she grew up in the church as well. And, just the pastor, I grew up in the church, and I had to understand my own relationship with God outside from my parents, and praying to God and allowing him to give me the peace and who I am and who I was meant to be. So that's a little bit about me. And, also just, I wanted to say, understanding that I was different allowed me to tap into my purpose and allowed me to become confident in pursuing what I wanted to do. Knowing that I was able to overcome speech therapy allowed me to say, wow, I can get this grades, I can go to college, I can pursue fashion, which is what I wanted to do, and which is what I'm doing now. So it's just a blessing to just go through that process and allow God to like bring me to a place where I am now. Yeah.
That was great. You guys are both just so strong, and I don't know if I could ever go through any of the stuff that you guys have went through. So my next question is for both of you guys. Let's start with Miss Anna. Were there any insecurities? Did you ever feel ashamed of your illness or anything else in your life? And how did you work through those insecurities and build your confidence?
Wow, Morgan, you asked such great questions. So I will try to keep it short and address it immediately in terms of insecurities. And the answer is absolutely yes, I did. As I mentioned before, I really struggled with my identity in terms of me understanding who I was and who God created me to be as a young girl. And just really trusting God, like what did that mean and what did that look like? And essentially, I struggled with my weight. So one of the things that I recognize is that when I was younger, which I believe is probably what ended up triggering me even getting diagnosed with leukemia later on, is that I wanted to look a certain way. So like much of like what Ali said is the struggle of why didn't I look like other people? Why didn't I look like my friends? Why didn't I look like my peers? And trying to wrestle through that. And I wanted to force myself to look like other young girls because I felt like they were getting attention that I was not getting. And I made myself lose weight by completely, like I stopped eating. That term in terms of in the medical field it can be considered what is bulimia, where I would eat something and then I would make myself regurgitate and just throw it up, right? And then anorexia, in that I could not see what other people saw. So even though I was smaller, I could not see that because all I saw was my need to lose weight. It was very challenging, and I've struggled through that actually for a very long time in my life, as my weight and being concerned about that. And I had to surrender that to God. When I was diagnosed with leukemia, I recognized that I had a lot of deep-rooted issues. So while I suffered physically, with leukemia, and for those that are not aware or I'm not too familiar what that is, it's literally cancer in the blood. So it was all over my body. And the way that it showed up in my particular situation is that arteries on my arms and my legs, the arteries are the small little vessels right underneath the skin that would burst. And so when they would burst, they would create red nodules on my arms and my legs. And that was painful. Every time one of those arteries burst, I would be in excruciating pain. So I had to be medicated in order to stop the pain from causing me to just be debilitated, or I couldn't really do anything. So while I was in pain, I was being numbed. And therefore from there, I could not really do anything. So my mom had to bathe me, help me go use the bathroom, etc. And from there, it was just me recognizing the challenges that I had to face for myself and trusting God. So when I was healed miraculously, I had all of the scars from every artery that burst. But the miracle of it is that when the Lord ministered to me, in which I wrote in my book, Be Made Whole, the Lord said to me that He was going to heal me miraculously. And I had to trust God for myself for the very first time, as it relates to something miraculous that, would not require surgery or medication. I literally just trusted God, and all of the the red spots on my arms and my legs dried out immediately, instantaneously. And I never had to take medication from that point forward. When I looked at my scars after God did the miracle, I was ashamed of the scars, and so I would try to hide it with makeup. And God would, and so for years I did it. I became an adult. I got married, and I was still trying to cover up my scars. And when I remember I was getting ready to go somewhere, and I remember hearing a voice saying to me, "Stop hiding your testimony." And I was like, I thought at that point it was my husband then. And I looked and I'm like, what's happening? And there was nobody there. It was the voice that said, "Stop hiding your testimony." And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. Officially, I've lost it. Like, I'm hearing things and I need to talk to somebody about this. And I went to change my clothes, and I heard the voice again, "Stop hiding your testimony. I healed you for a reason." And that's where God challenged me. I was completely humbled by that experience. And I repented. I said to the Lord, "I'm so sorry that for so long I hid this testimony because I was afraid of what people would say, or what people would ask me if they saw my scars." And that opened the ministry of Be Made Whole. That is what allowed me to surrender my body and we call the temple of the Holy Spirit to the Lord, so that He can get the glory out of my life, and that all others can know who God is by my surrender, by my trusting God. And Be Made Whole was birthed. So I wrote my book, and I started the ministry of Be Made Whole so that I can share my testimony, but also how God calls us to be responsible of what He has entrusted us with. So He heals us. He lets us go through these journeys, right? These things in our lives that we don't understand, but that He uses that so that we can be light in the midst of darkness, so that others can come to the knowledge of this God that we serve, and that they come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ and are then transformed. So it was challenging, but it was a beautiful opportunity for God to get the glory and for me to get to know who God is for myself, and not just because of some story that I heard or somebody telling me that I needed to believe in God.
That was just so inspiring. I am in awe of how you handled everything that you have once been through. And I'd like to ask the exact same question for Allie. How did you build your confidence, especially being in the fashion industry where there's a lot of criticism and pressure to be so perfect?
That's such a good question. And I was filled with insecurities, especially when you're battling with such a different ability, and you're trying to maneuver in a world where society is telling you have to be one way, but you know that you follow Lord Jesus Savior, and I just know that I just had to come to like a concept where, okay, am I gonna follow what society wants me to be, fit in and be like everyone else, or I'm gonna stand out in my calling and be who God has called me to be? Because I know that although I have this different ability, He hasn't put this on my life to hinder me. For some way, shape, or form, He has chosen me as His chosen vessel to have a hearing impairment, and hopefully to inspire others and to just stand strong in who I am. So throughout middle school, when I was dealing with my insecurity, my mom reminded me of this scripture, "You were fearfully and wonderfully made." And I just had to keep reminding myself of that scripture. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And also knowing that because of that, God also knows the plans that He has for our lives. So knowing that, I'm like, okay, I have this different ability, but He knew me before I was born. He knew what my future was going to be. He knew what my plans was going to be. So when I came into that concept of knowing God knows my future, like He's not going to leave me hanging. So knowing that just gave me the confidence to overcome my insecurities. Not that I still don't have any. I mean, we all have insecurities that we're still battling with, inside and out. And I'm grateful to God that He continues to pour into me and just give me my confidence comes from God. It doesn't come from the world. So when I came into the fashion industry, I knew, especially from watching Project Runway, I knew that it was gonna be hard to like fit in. And I was like, okay, when I'm going into college, going into FIT, I can't try to fit in because it's not gonna work. I'm not gonna make it in this industry, especially it's so cutthroat, you know, that it's just, you have one size fits all. And I had to be like, no, like I am going to stand out. I'm going to be who God has called me to be. If people like me, they like me. If they don't, they don't. At least God does, you know? And that's really the mindset I had to have. And knowing that it's good to be different. Just because something isn't out there doesn't mean it's not possible to do it. Like you can still do it because maybe it was waiting for you. Your purpose was waiting for you. So going into the fashion industry, it's okay to break norms, to break glass ceilings, like Kamala Harris, for instance, being the first Black female president. Like that's just mind blowing. And just being, if we're trying to fit in, we can't break societal norms. We can't break glass ceilings. We have to stand out and stand firm in our identity. And vice president, right? And just stand firm in who God has called us to be.
That was great, and I'm just in awe. I loved how you said one size fits all, and you wanted to stand out, because being unique is a thing that you should let stand out. You should let it express itself. So my next question is for Miss Anna. So what is your greatest lesson you learned, or are still learning, from your journey? And what did the pain teach you about your purpose?
So I think the greatest lesson that I believe I continue to learn is that God making us whole, you know, which is really what I focus on, is not an event, but it's an ongoing journey where we are continually learning about who God is in our lives, but also who we are in Him. So in every challenge that we face, in every chapter of our lives, we are continually learning, and God is continually showing us how He makes us whole, how everything that we need is found in Him. And the strength that we need is in Him. The creativity that we need is in Him. He shows us through His word, and He gives us the strength. And He reminds us, I love what Ali said, that scripture, that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. It's so key, because when we know who we are confident, and we walk boldly in the call that God has on our lives and the purpose for which He created us for. When we aren't clear about purpose, we end up allowing pain to drown out the word of God. And it's not that we ignore pain. I think pain is important for us to recognize, because it shows where we need fixing or where something needs to be addressed. If we don't feel pain, we don't pay attention if we're bleeding. You know, if you think about, for example, if you're cut somewhere, the pain is what allowed us to look and realize we're bleeding. Pain allows us to show where we're bleeding in our hearts, in our minds, in our emotions, and in our spiritual walk with the Lord. And that pain then is what we surrender to God. And then God crafts that and molds us. Romans 8:28 says that all things work together for good of those that love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. So even the things that we don't understand, the things that are painful, the things that we're like, God, if you loved me, you would have not allowed this to happen. Those things God take and mold and create us and show us how they're purposeful, and how He can still get glory out of our lives and use us to stand out and be light in the midst of darkness, in spaces that you're like, how in the world am I going to fit in? How is anybody going to understand or like me or anything? You know, that's what God uses, that pain. So learning how to surrender that. And that's something that I have continually learned throughout my entire life, even now into adulthood and being a mom, and now talking to my daughter about certain things, is the reality that we shouldn't be afraid of pain. We should actually use it to surrender it to God and allow God in His word to show us what's the purpose that He can take out of that, so that others' lives are changed through our own testimony. And that wholeness is not an event, that it is an ongoing journey. And we continue to surrender to God, and God continues to make us whole and show us the beauty of what it is to trust Him with all our heart and not lean on our own understanding, not lean on society's understanding, not lean on what culture is telling us, but ultimately that He is the one that tells us who we are, and He directs our path so that we can then shine bright and be who God called us to be, and not be afraid to be bold about doing things that our family hasn't done, or other people that are our age or our color have not done, and literally just trust Him, and He backs us up with all of heavenly hosts and says, that's my girl right there. Go on ahead and bring my name glory.
That was just amazing. You did so well, and I love what you said about confidence, because confidence is the main component to remember to believe in yourself and make sure that you think positive about yourself. And speaking of confidence, that brings me to my next question for Allie. So Allie, what would you say to a young girl who is different in some way and feels ashamed about it? How does she move from the pain of it to realizing the purpose of it?
That is an amazing question. And I guess what I would tell that person is to endure, just it's okay to have insecurities. It's okay to not understand what's going on. That's okay. Like feel the feelings, but also give it to God. Surrender it all to God, because at the end of the day, He will give you the answers that you need to move forward. And I love how Anna said that wholeness is not an event; it's an ongoing process, and that is so true. Like even as you dive deep into what it is that you may not like about yourself, or the pain that you're going through, your circumstances, you'll begin to stop saying, why me, and how can I use this to give your name the glory? And that's really how I was able to maneuver through my pain of knowing that I was different than everyone else. And I feel like each and every one of us are different in some way, shape, or form. You don't have to have a disability, a different ability, or it might be a circumstance that we're going through, our talents or our gifts. In some way, shape, or form, we're all different. And when we use that and to give God the glory, and we use it to make it positive rather than negative, then that's when we'll be able to see a transformation, and when we'll be able to understand and become confident in who and what God has placed inside of us. So my advice is to just be you, like shine bright, don't hide, don't cover yourself because you're ashamed or you just don't want to be seen. Stand in a spotlight and shine and just watch God turn it around, because He's amazing.
That spotlight, your light, so that shines so bright in you right now. And I have a feeling that it shines bright in you almost all the time. But that was my last question for you guys, and I've loved this interview.
Thank you so much for having us. You were amazing, Morgan, truly. And Allie, just incredible.
I'm so inspired by you. Like,
same.
When I grow up.
Oh my gosh. No, you're blessing me and encouraging me, truly. Allie, you're a force to be reckoned with. I'm telling you.
Ladies, thank you so much. Morgan, you did an exceptional job leading that conversation. I just want to come in really quick and last question. Sorry, Morgan, I'm not stealing your thunder, I promise. If there's a girl who is listening, a Black or brown girl who is listening, and she's heard you talk about just how God beautifies our bruises, but she's not there yet. She's angry, she's disappointed. She thought that she had a God who would keep her from this harm, keep her from this pain. She's angry, she's upset, and she's not feeling the joy that you all have about what God has done for you. In 30 seconds from both of you, what would you say to a young woman who doesn't feel all your Jesus right now? Who doesn't feel all that glory right now? 30 seconds from both of you.
Yes.
You want me to go? Go ahead.
For me, I would just say, feel those feelings. It's okay to be angry. But I would give that to God. God wants you to come to him and be like, I'm angry. He wants you to be like, why me? So that he can pour into you and give you the joy and the light for what's soon to come. And the Bible says weeping endures for a night, but joy comes in the morning. So right now you're angry, right now you're sad, but at the end of the day, it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to be jumping and shouting overnight. But eventually, as you just dive deep in who you are and become so confident and accept that this is how it is, but there's a future ahead of me and there's a purpose and plan for my life, then that joy will come and he gives you the confidence when you learn your confidence.
Beautiful. Anna?
That's so good. I would say I was that girl. I've been there and I was angry and I was bold about my anger to God. I went to him. I wouldn't go like Ali said overnight and was joyful. No, I was fussing at God. Like, why would you do this to me if you say you're such a good God? How could you let me go through this? And I went through a lot of things as a young girl. Not just that, I went through abuse. I went through traumatic situations and I had to give that to God. Like Ali said, I didn't give it to him in a nice, worshipful way. I was angry and I probably said things I wouldn't have said in a nice ways. And in that anger, God literally transformed my heart because I gave him my heart. I literally surrendered it all to him and he began to show me his love through the pain that I was going through and how it was his mercy that kept me and his grace that was sufficient. The word tells us that we have access to God to run boldly to him. And I promise y'all, if we do that, if you do that right now in this moment where you are in your anger, like Ali said, feel them, be honest, but go to him, go to God and ask him, which is what I did. Literally, I said, God, if you are who people have said you are, and if you are who I have been told for so long that you're a good God, I need you to show me before I lose my mind. That was the most honest prayer that I did. And I promise you, God showed up in my life in a way that I couldn't have scripted. I couldn't have drawn it because I'm also an artist. I couldn't have made it up. God is so mindful of you. He cares about every tear. He cares about every part of your life. And he just wants to hear your heart. So give it to him.
Wow, I am full. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for sharing your stories, for being so bold and transparent, authentic, and really empowering us, giving us permission to share our stories and really coming to terms with the fact that what makes us different is really what makes us powerful. We serve a dynamic God, and he has created dynamic creations in us. And so we are unique, we are different. And truly, 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 I can say, and I know you guys have testified today, that our pain fuels our purpose if we let God have it. Thank you. We cannot thank you enough for being with us today. God bless you too. We hope you'll come back again and chat with us some more. We are so grateful for you. And Morgan, per usual, we are so proud of you. You did a great job.
Excellent.
Stay with us, friends. We are coming back with segment 2. We are celebrating National STEM and STEAM Day with Temple Leicester. So excited. Please don't go anywhere and share this broadcast with a parent whose kid needs to see this, a brown or black girl who needs to see this. Share it right now. We'll be back in a minute.
Hi everyone, I'm Peyton, and this is Kendall, and I'm 9, she's 14. Today we have this STEM education box from Temple Leicester, and we're just gonna do an experience and we're gonna see what's inside.
Welcome back, friends. We are so excited to be here celebrating National STEM and STEAM Day. If you don't know, STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, and STEAM is all of that plus art. We are celebrating this day with Temple Lester. Temple is an entrepreneur, public speaker, and STEM advocate. She expressed an interest in science at a very early age. In third grade, she launched justtemple.com, a website dedicated to STEM. Through her advocacy, she has exposed over 50,000 people to STEM and has received many awards and honors. Temple was named the 2020 Broadcast Masters top 10% of middle school science fair participants in the nation. She has been featured on several shows and in several publications. Temple was recently featured in the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture 2020 Digital Showcase for her award-winning documentary about Shirley Chisholm. She is captivated with stars, planets, and galaxies. Temple wants to be an astrophysicist when she grows up so that she can understand the universe and the role that we play in it. Temple, welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us. Peyton and Morgan, let's get to it.
Hi, Temple. You're so inspiring. To get started, can you explain what is STEM and STEAM?
Okay, so science, technology, engineering, and math is STEAM or STEM, and science, technology, engineering, arts, and math is STEAM. And today is National STEM Day, so I'm celebrating it with all my social media platforms. I've been going live today. I've had 3 lives on Instagram today. I have been celebrating, and it's just all about the day. It's all about encouraging youth to get interested in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And especially for me, because that's what my whole brand is about. I created a brand called STEM Girl Swag right here to encourage girls and minorities to take an interest in science, technology, engineering, and math. Because as a girl and as a minority, there's not enough representation of people that look like me in fields that I want to go into.
So, hi Temple, by the way. Why is it important to celebrate National STEM or STEAM Day?
So as I just said, this day is just all about encouraging youth to get into STEM. So I just think it is so important because one thing that I have been saying a lot recently is that if you can't see it, you can't be it. So it's all about encouraging people who don't get to see people that look like them doing something that they want to do. So they think, hey, if I don't see anybody that looks like me doing this thing, then I can't do it because nobody looks like me. So I want to pave the way for young people that have the same skin tone as me or that are girls, just to encourage it.
That was great, but I have to go to my next question. So I'm into science also. I'm wearing my science shirt today. And I want to know, how did you become interested in science?
So I had always been interested in science. When I was younger, I would wash off rocks at my grandma's house from her driveway, which is what I talk about all the time. But I just had always been interested in it. I was never what the society would play with, what society would normalize as girl things. Like I would never play with Barbie dolls when I was younger. So that's just kind of how I got my way into science. But how I got my way into advocating for science is when I was 7 or 8 years old. I went to a science summer camp and I was the first girl at the camp, the only girl at the camp. So the counselors kept calling me their princess. I didn't want to be a princess. I wanted to be a scientist just like everyone else there. And I was one of few minorities that were in the group as well. So as I got older, I started doing more and more research on why there's such a big gap between men and women in science and minorities and not minorities in science. And that just led me to where I am today. When I was in 5th grade, I entered a STEM Talk competition, which is kind of like a TED Talk. But I won the competition. I got to speak to over 5,000 science teachers from across the state of Georgia about trading in my crown for a lab jacket.
That was really cool. By the way, for my next question, who are some of the Black women in science that girls can look up to?
So some other Black women in science. So I'm going to talk about some that I know personally and then talk about some of my favorites. So I'm interviewing this lady today called, her name is Dana Washington, and she's just so incredible. She's one of the first Black women to have her own science TV show, and it's just such an honor to be able to talk to her today. Another one is Jediah Eisler. She is an astrophysicist, which is what I want to be when I'm older. And an astrophysicist is just someone who just learns to discover the universe and how it works, explore it, and search for life on other planets and around the universe. So that's just all I'm about. And then, of course, people like Katherine Johnson, who's the first African-American woman to work at NASA, which I think is just so incredible, and I look up to them so much.
So why does science seem so intimidating to some girls? What can we do to make it more accessible and interesting to girls of color?
So what I think is the reason that it's not at accessibility to girls that look like me is because most girls of all backgrounds, they aren't introduced to it, whereas their brother may have been introduced to it first. Like they were introduced to cars while girls were introduced to Barbie dolls, or girls were introduced to looking a certain way while guys were supposed to get the job. It's just based off how society was created and what our societal norms. So that's just it. And what I think can make it more accessible to girls of color and just girls in general is showing them that you can do this. Like, as I said, we can't do what we can't see. So just making it more accessible and showing a little girl, hey, this is what I look like. I'm doing this incredible thing that you may not see a lot of people doing. So I'm just here to prove that, hey, you can do this too.
That was a really good answer, and that was awesome. So now, for my next question, who or what inspires you the most and why?
Ooh, that is a super great question. I'm going to go with a cliche answer right now, and it will have to be my mom. My mom is my best friend, of course, and she's also the person that I've looked up to most of my life because she's what led the way for me doing all this incredible stuff I'm doing. She's an entrepreneur. She's my manager. She's all that incredible stuff. So when I was younger, I would see her public speaking, and that's how I really got my start public speaking. I would go up on stage with her at different events, and that's just my parents always love to talk about how I've always been on stage. So my mom has just been that inspiration, saying, hey, you can do this, and you can be this incredible woman, and you can be this incredible Black woman, and you can just do all these incredible things. So it's always just been my mom.
That was really good, Temple. For our next question, I'm really excited to talk about your science kit box because me and my cousin used it for an experiment, and it was so much fun. Tell us about your science kit box. What enzymes did you put in it?
So this is my STEM swag box. It is the coolest science kit ever. Before I go into what's inside of it, I'm going to talk about my favorite thing. My favorite thing right here is a picture of me on the back of it. And as I said, I love to advocate for girls in STEM and minorities in STEM. So I always think about, hey, if there's a girl out there who looks like me, who has this melanin in her skin, and she doesn't see other people or other women out there that look like her doing something that she wants to do, I can be that inspiration. And she could think, hey, this is a young Black girl who looks like me doing this incredible thing in STEM and science. So that's just my favorite part about the box. And then there are a lot of different experiments in this box. It's the coolest science kit ever. It came out about a year ago, and I raised over $5,000 on GoFundMe to donate it to people in my community and schools in my community who may not have access to science in their own homes. So my favorite experiment is the plant seed ball, and it's my favorite because you can also make this experiment with supplies that are in the box, but it's recycled paper, water, and seeds mixed up together and made into a ball, and you can use it on your own and just learn how to make things more recyclable and more reusable. And then what people's favorite experiment is, because it's for kids, is slime. I have magnetic slime in here, and everybody loves slime. I was a slime kid for the majority of my life in science. So slime, magnetic slime, is just a twist on making slime. Just you put iron filling in it and you get a magnet and it moves on its own. So I think that's really cool. Then when I was in Savannah, I was on the news channel there, and I did an experiment on self-inflating balloon, which is test tube, baking soda, and balloons. And one of my favorite things out the box is you don't need to buy anything for the box. You just have supplied, like 2 supplies that most people have in their homes, and everything else is here.
So my next question is, I have used your science kit too, and I agree it was a lot of fun. So that leads me to my next question, and my final question for you. How did you become a business owner at such a young age? What advice do you have for someone like me who's building a business right now?
Well, how I started my business at such a young age, it had always been a passion of my mind, and my parents had introduced it to me at a young age. Like, I've always been around people who had their own businesses or were entrepreneurs, and as I said, my mom's an entrepreneur, so I did grow up around people knowing how to do business on their own. So my mom introduced it to me. I always wanted to kind of start my own business that was something science. I first started off with a book that never actually worked out. And so then I went to a YouTube channel for making fun science videos just for my peers, because a lot of them didn't seem interested in science as I was. So I started doing that research on why kids weren't really interested in it if they haven't been introduced to it. And so that's just really why I started. Then after that, I started public speaking 2 years after I started my business, and it just escalated from there. But some advice that I would give to a young person that would like to start a business would be to surround yourself with positivity and always follow your dream no matter what someone else tells you. So that kind of goes together with negativity, like not to focus or put yourself in a position where you're surrounded by people with negative energy or just things with negative energy, because then you'll start to not believe in what you're doing. And the whole point of a business is to solve a problem that really goes with you. So I solved a problem for getting minorities and girls interested in STEM, because that's what I'm all about. So just with positivity, surround yourself with it and follow your dream and solve a problem.
That was a really, really good answer. For now, for our final question, if you wrote a Dear Black Girl letter to a 16-year-old, like my little sister Brielle, what would it say inside of it, Temple?
Okay, so that's a great question. So what I would write, like, to a Dear Black Girl, would, to like a younger version of me or my past self, would be not to let anybody tear you down, and not listen to the negative things that people say. Like, I've heard a lot of things from, oh, you're too young, oh, different things that are like society norms that I just defy. So what I would tell younger me, and not even that long ago, let's say 3 years ago, I would tell her to not listen to the people that you surrounded yourself with, because it ended up not being a great environment and you ended up doing all these incredible things after that. So just don't listen to that. Don't be down on yourself, and always believe in yourself.
You did so good, Temple. That was our last questions for today.
Yeah, that was really good. I agree with Morgan too. That was a really good letter if you wrote it to a 6-year-old.
Thank you so much, Temple, for being with us today. We know you have been on Instagram chatting it up all day. Thank you for making time for us. I love what you said about solving a problem. That is what we strive for at Dear Black Girl.
Yeah.
We want to be problem solvers. Ladies, you did a great job. This was so much fun and so exciting. And we hope everyone who's watching will follow Temple, because she stays busy and she always has something cool on her page that you can share with your class or with your daughter, your goddaughter, your niece, a young lady who needs to be exposed to this. Thank you so much, Temple. We've had
Thank you so much for having
with you. Well, ladies, you did a great job. I applaud you. We've come to the end of our show. I want to thank you for being our interviewers today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you, Coco.
Bye, guys. All right, friends, we've come to the end of our show. We had such a filling show today. We talked about overcoming obstacles. We talked about being who God has called you to be despite your obstacles and your challenges and the difficulty of the journey, but the reality of the fact that it is purposeful. It may not be perfect, but it is purposeful. Before we leave today, we want to bring on one of our Dear Black Girl Dream Team members, Margell. She has a very special gift for someone who registered for our program. Hi, Margell.
Hi.
What do you have today?
Well, that's a secret until we get further into the discussion. So thank you guys for joining us for the third session of Dear Black Girl. If you learned something today, please share this broadcast with someone you love. Also, would you consider sponsoring us? We have so many plans for Dear Black Girl, and your support will allow us to reach our goals. Also, today we are doing a giveaway. One of our registered girls will win a Goddess Food Factory baking kit. If you haven't registered your daughter, niece, goddaughter, or young girl, do so now so she can be entered to win our next giveaway. You can visit dearblackgirl.us to register. Today's winner is 12-year-old Israel. Congratulations. We will be in touch as you claim your prize. Okay, have a wonderful week, and don't forget, don't let anything keep you from being the brilliant, brave, and beautiful person God has created you to be. Bye.